At their respective positions. We are starting the conclave immediately. I request everyone in the pre-function area to kindly come inside and have a seat. We'll be starting the conclave in 1 minute. I request the moderator for today's CEO conclave, Mr. Biju Pillai, to kindly come on stage. We're beginning the CEO conclave immediately. Please be seated. I request everyone in the pre-function area to kindly be seated. We're starting the CEO conclave immediately. I'd like to invite the moderator, Mr. Biju Pillai, on stage. The theme for today's conclave is fostering collaborations between the industry and science to develop sustainable products and processes. It is going to be moderated by Mr. Biju Pillai, who's the Deputy Editor of Chemical Weekly. So Chemical Weekly is a magazine dedicated to chemicals, pharmaceuticals and allied industries, and it has a readership of over 80,000. I request Mr. Biju Pillai to kindly come on stage and begin the moderation for the CEO conclave. I request all the panelists of today's CEO conclave to kindly come on stage and take their seats. Requesting Mr. Ravi Boratkar, President of Maharashtra Economic Development Council and Agrovision Foundation, to kindly come on stage. Dr. Sameer Singh, Vice President, Jubilant Engravia Limited, I request you to kindly come on stage. Mr. Nitesh Mehta, Co-Founder and Director of Nureka Green Synth Technologies Private Limited, I request you to kindly come on stage, sir. Dr. Pramod Kumbar, President and Chief Technology Officer, Praj Industries Limited, I request you to kindly come on stage, sir. I request Dr. Sangeeta Srivastava, Executive Director of Godavari Biorefineries, to kindly come on stage. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, Mr. Biju Pillai. I hand over the stage to you, sir. Please begin the conclave.
Thank you. A very warm welcome from my side also. Special felicitations to Professor G.D. Yadav. Very happy to be here on this wonderful occasion. We will straight away get into the discussions. We will be talking about the trends in sustainability practices in the chemical industry and how collaborations between industry and academy can drive those practices. So to set the stage with a few comments, I would ask Nitesh, since he, in his capacity as the founder of Nureka Green Synth, he has been working with companies across the spectrum of the chemical industry in enabling them to have a green chemical practices in their operations. So Nitesh, can you probably talk about what are the general trends in sustainability that you see in the industry? Have they changed in the past few years? And where do you see those trends going forward?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you. It's an honor to be here for this panel discussion. I think few trends that I see, something that comes off to my mind right away. One trend is around across the value chain, you see people looking at greener alternatives. So when I say across the value chain means on the raw material side, people are looking at what could be renewable feedstock that I could use instead of a fossil fuel-based starting raw material for my intermediates or advanced intermediates, whatever I'm manufacturing. So that is one trend that we are seeing. Then, so that's regarding the raw material. When it comes to process, we are looking at various green chemistry innovations across different processes. How do you shift from, let's say, solvents to water, or do catalysis, which is sustainable metal catalysis and all that. So there is a, on the raw material front, on the process front, and then those sets of places where you can't do something on the process, you are looking at on the waste management or on the effluent front, even if it is getting generated. If you can't reduce it, how can you treat it in a more sustainable manner? So what you see is across the value chain, right from raw material feedstock to end of the pipe treatment, we are seeing a trend of companies looking at greener alternatives, more sustainable alternatives. So that's one trend that we are commonly seeing across the sector.
Moving on to the topic of the discussions about collaborations between the industry and academia, I would like Pramod to probably start off with how successful industry-academia collaborations can be made, and any examples they can cite.
Okay. So industry-academia collaborations has been topic for everywhere we go, and people talk about industry-academia collaborations. It's very normal in all conferences. They talk about nothing is happening, everybody has their concerns. But there are examples like at Praj, what we have done is we have sponsored Center Biopolymer Application Center in ICT, which was inaugurated 3 months back with Dr. Chaudhary, who is our chairman. His personal money he has put in, as well as Praj. So we have given substantial amount of money to do the biodegradable plastics or biopolymers applications development. Because one of the issue about bioplastics is the application part is still not fully been exploited, particularly like polylactic acid and polyhydroxybutyrate, which is a new biodegradable polymer. And we are seeing that as compared to ICT, we have very good response that we got from Professor Pandit within, I think within a month, we are agreed on the NDAs and all these things, which is the worst part of any industry academia collaborations, to get the NDAs done and IP solved. And I'm very happy to say that with ICT, we had excellent response, what we have done, and probably in 8-9 months, the center is ready to do the work. So it's very, very good collaboration that successful. Of course, we have collaborations, even in US, we have collaborations with Joint Bioenergy Institute for advanced biofuels. There the advantage is basically they have what is called as options agreement when you have. So you can acquire a technology at early phase and then develop it further. So that's a very good opportunity for successful collaborations. So IP is the most crucial part, how you solve it. Particularly working with CSR labs, that is the biggest issue still that has not been solved. So thank you.
Thank you, Pramod. Sangeeta, you have the probably unique distinction of working with a company which is part of the Somaya group, which also has a university. So your take on how industry academia collaborations can be enhanced. You have the view on both sides of the coin. So how do you go about it?
Thank you. So my experience of industry academia collaboration goes a long way because I think when we started I'm not talking about the university side, I'm talking about the industry side. When we started exploring what else can be done, and we were only doing ethanol, lacerate. So I think UDCD was the place where I just walked in and met Professor Chandalia, and then the journey started from there. We also work with NCL on various technologies. So like I feel is, I think us like approaching each other, being more transparent, and we had no issues on kind of IP side, but definitely what I see is the end result. The end result is what we need to keep in mind and then work around, because sometimes we get stuck and kind of scale up. So I think we need to look a little bit beyond that and then look at how do we come over that issues, and it is possible to do it. Probably we need consumer end application part, which you are doing with Praj technology development, where the consumer is also part of the technology development. So my experience on academia collaboration is good, but the university side, if you look at, what we see is the collaboration is two-front. One is the technology development, and second is the manpower, skilled manpower. So I think there is more collaboration probably also is needed for skill development, so that we have industry-ready people who join us. So that's what I.
Thank you. Dr. Samir, would you like to add something about how Jubilant goes about this?
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you. Actually, Jubilant is doing collaboration with IIT Bombay, ICT Mumbai, IIT Delhi, everywhere, NCL Pune. The basic challenges we face that regarding the some IPR issue, because due to CSIR, as Sangeeta said, that assignee, who will be the assignee? So obviously, if industry is paying money for the research, so assignee should be only company, because he will exploit your whatever the innovation comes. Inventors, both the entity, institute as well as academia, both should be involved parallelly. And second thing, where I face the challenges, that is the timeline. It should be timeline. And my request to the here all dignitaries, Professor Yadav, Professor Sharma, and other things, because government is focused that it should be, expense should be R&D more. And industry is also interested, but we should take that project, that because we are importing too much chemicals. We can figure out the name, 1,000 crore rupees we are investing for China for importing the material. We should focus that material. Quickly, we have to collaborate with institute, and we should go for that material. Why we are importing for China? For quick decision, we can go first, whatever we are importing, we should stop the importing, we should self-development. That is my.
Shishir, would you like to add about DMCC's experience with collaborations?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Today's session I am attending in place of my boss, Bimal Gokuldas. Had he been here, he would have given more inputs on this. However, I know that DMCC is closely working years together with IIT and ICT. And Dr. Sangeeta pointed out that the industry-academia collaboration in terms of technology is okay, but in terms of getting new good people for the industry is most important. Because, you know, when the people come to industry, the graduate engineers coming to industry, they're not knowing many things. So there has to be some stop in between where they get trained, and then when they enter the industry, they are ready to face the challenges.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to bring Ravi in to give his comments on how, because he is the president of Maharashtra Economic Development Council, what can organizations like this council or other trade bodies, how can they enable these collaborations?
Well, thank you. I think the very fact that I'm on this panel today, though I'm not a scientist and I'm not into a chemical industry, but as you rightly say, I'm heading a chamber and some other forum. I'm basically a facilitator for such kind of collaborative efforts. I bring industry, academia, scientific fraternity together on various such initiatives. I think this underlines the importance of collaboration. And I remember at the beginning of this millennia, when Dr. Mashelkar for the first time thought of, changing the largest congregation of the scientists, that is the Indian Science Congress, should be made open to industry also. Then I think that's in Pune it happened. So we launched a Genesis, and there was an exhibition launched there. Many themes like mind to market, lab to land, it started there. and it gave good results also. And very recently, since we have from Praj also, in one of such effort on agrivision, where we do bring together a large number of farmers or companies into agriculture, there we were talking more about, the ethanol and then the biogas which they have, the biomass which they have, large number of biomass. And with collaborating with them, we formed an organization called Indian Federation of Green Energy. So today we have demonstrated with the collaboration run a tractor on a complete 100% ethanol, then also on a compressed biogas, that also trials have been taken. So I think this kind of collaboration also happens when the science team and industry comes together. And when you talk about the sustainability, I think if we have to look at the net zero by 2050, and the kind of pressures the industry have today, maybe about the energy transition, energy security, sustainability, even for that matter being competitive also. So what is required, I think, is the using the shared infrastructure, working together with the all stakeholders directly, or not only the industry, as we talked about the entire value chain of the industry, but I think also to the academia and other team. Because any research also, it will have the relevance only if it can be translated for the societal benefit. And that translation can happen only through the industry intervention. And that can only happen with the collaborations.
Thank you. Moving on to challenges that the industry face in ensuring cleaner, greener and leaner operations. Are there any specific areas that the industry is looking at the academia to provide solutions? This is a question to all the panelists. Probably Nitish, you can probably start off.
So I see a couple of areas where academia can contribute. And there are challenges for industry. One area definitely is that, sometimes we say that the green or sustainable chemistry toolbox is empty. What it basically means is that there are a whole bunch of chemical transformations or chemical processes which are still being done by industry in a very conventional manner. And the greener alternative to that technology does not exist today. And in the absence of that kind of a technology not being there, the industry does not have a choice but to use the conventional technology, which happens to be inherently hazardous or inherently polluting. So that's one place where I personally believe that academia can make a large difference. If we can, come out with greener alternatives to do certain reactions which are currently being done in a hazardous manner, using some conventional reagents and conventional technology. So that's one thing where I see academia can make a big difference. The academia can make a big difference is they being a kind of a extended R&D arm for MSMEs. Because MSMEs normally do not have their own R&D setup. And we don't normally have the capacity, like even I'm a technology provider, but I don't have the capacity to do fundamental R&D, which is what academia can bring on the table, which mostly even large companies do not have the capability to do fundamental R&D. So that's another area where I feel academia can make a big difference.
Yeah, Shishir, can you comment on that also? If Bimal was here, I would have asked him about the ICT collaboration on the research for MSMEs. So if you can comment on that also, that would be great.
Nitesh rightly pointed out that many times in the industry, they are doing everything. I mean, any new modification or they want to do something, they do it in a conventional manner. And they are not knowing that new things are available. And that's where the things are moving at very slow pace. So there I think academia can help industry to, do the things in a faster way. For example, recently, I will just cite one example what we are facing, that in one of the plants, we have for separation a big separator, but we are still not knowing that there could be a smaller device, a smaller equipment which can separate the things. where academia can definitely must be knowing about this, and there they can help us. And I'm sure similar kind of problems most of the industries must be facing.
Thank you. Sangeeta, anything that you see the academia can help the industry with specific problem areas?
So what I consider is right now, immediately, because we're talking about sustainability, I think biotransformation and biocatalysis is the area where we should look a little bit beyond. Because if you look at any product and the technology, you see, okay, it's available in China, go and buy from China. Why so? Because we don't have kind of those technology advancements where we can say, okay, this enzyme is available, you can buy here, there is somebody who can make it. So those areas, I think we should be a little bit advanced and be ready for industry to take it forward. So that's what I think.
Thank you. Dr. Samir, any areas you see that academia can help in your operation specifically?
Very well. Actually, academia is helping well, and we are doing, as I told, that we are collaborating most of the prestigious institute in India as well as abroad. Only thing is the challenges of the timeline, and academia person from India, we should request him that they should at least 2 months to industry and look at the commercial level, how we are producing at commercial level, because academia is doing research at a low level. So when we go the challenge from pilot to commercial level, there are so many challenges. To sort out their challenges, academia should visit the industry, and industry people should also visit to academia that what recent trend and what new technology is going on in the academia.
Yeah, thank you. Pramod, Praj does quite a lot of research on biofuels and bio-based chemicals. Do you see specific areas where there are problem areas that you don't find partners from the academia?
So typically, what we are finding is synthetic biology still we are a lot weaker as compared to outside India, because we have more collaborations on synthetic biology outside than India. We haven't found anybody who is as expert as what we get in US, particularly on synthetic biology side, or if you ask Professor Sharma particularly on doing the evolutionary engineering of the microbes and everything. So we have not found anybody. We do a lot of things ourselves, but that's the area where we have not found any institute that is really at world class in India, and that's where I think we need to focus. If you see in US, the molecular biology part is done by most of the chemical engineers, most of the synthetic biologists, chemical engineers. I have not found, I request Professor Pandit also to ICT, if you can get into synthetic biology and chemical engineering together, it will be really good combination. I can tell you that most of the chemical engineers in US are looking at biological sciences more, and that's where it can help us. Like we have problems on getting polyhydroxybutyrate copolymers, which can be only made by genetic modification, and that's where we need a lot of help.
Thank you. What are the roadblocks to successful industry academia collaborations? I always hear about the trust deficit. Is that still a problem now, or are there other challenges? I would like everyone to comment on it. Probably Sangeeta, you take the first shot.
It depends upon what kind of institute you're working on, what is your relationship. So I don't think the trust is the roadblock. I think it's always can sit together and arrive at a kind of consensus that this is what we want to do it. Because as a company, we also worked with NCL, CSR Nimitli project, and there we had done very different kind of agreement which were not signed before that. So I think it was only possible because we sat down and discussed the possibility of what can be done. So trust is something like that. You have to consider ourselves equal. You don't say that, okay, I'm industry, I'm having upper hand, or it's academia and they have the whole rights. So I think there is something which is joint. So even when we talk about IP, why not joint IP? Because it's not one-sided, it has to be both-sided. Because unless there is a problem, solution doesn't exist, right? So we have to kind of consider equal and partnership. I don't consider as any roadblock on trust. But definitely when things go wrong, that is the time when you know how good was the agreement. So that is why you have to design your agreement in such a way that if something goes wrong, what are the solution in the agreement? So I think that is very critical and important, and I feel it's possible to do it.
Shishir, what should not be done in a industry academic collaborations? Your comments.
What should not be done? Well, I think industry and academia should come together, definitely. And I don't think there are any roadblocks. There are, you can say, speed breakers, not the roadblocks. So, certain speed breakers should be there. Like, Dr. Sangeeta pointed out that the agreement, while doing any work, there has to be some agreement which has to be designed in a very proper manner so that, the things go in a positive way, in a forward direction. So, some hurdles are there, but not the complete roadblock, surely.
Thank you. Nitesh, probably we can learn more from our failures rather than our successes. So, any examples of some failures where you probably learn more?
Yeah, I think one of the failure we had was, this was a collaboration. We actually started off that collaboration. We signed the CDA, things started working, and it worked for, I think, about 6 months or so with an institute in Canada. And in that institute in Canada, we started working with them over a period of time. And it was only after 6 months when we started asking some difficult questions in terms of what is the origin of the catalyst, what is the catalyst manufacturing process, where does the raw material come from, whether that raw material is something that would be available to me locally when I want to do it on a very large scale and I want to supply it to the industry on a big scale. So what is the recyclability of the catalyst? How is the recovery process? So it's when we started asking those difficult questions after like 4-5 months into the project, because the initial 4-5 months was all about seeing the performance of the catalyst, which was working great, and which is what excited us in the first place to get into the project. But it was later on when we started asking those difficult questions, which that academic institute in Canada had not asked themselves while developing the process. We realized that it's a very exotic catalyst, requires about 9 or 10 steps manufacturing process, creating huge amount of effluents. So I'm not solving that much amount of problem, and I'm creating more by manufacturing that catalyst. So it turned out to be a failure, but we started realizing to ask those difficult questions much at an earlier stage, which those guys have not really engaged into while they're developing. They also, like us, got excited with the results. This is going to replace sodium, lithium aluminum hydride or sodium borohydride, and they got excited with that result. But I think those difficult questions, if we ask, it is uncomfortable for them when we are asking that, but I think it has to be taken healthily.
Thank you.
Saves a lot of time later on for both.
Thank you. Ravi, any comments on how collaborations should not be done among industry or the universities? Any experiences that you have?
Yeah, I think what I have observed that there is no trust deficit as such, what you said, but basically there are some challenges. Like any academia or researcher has a different objective, different goals, and business has a different objective, different goals. So what is important that when you collaborate, you need to properly, understand each other's requirement and then decide on a good course of action. What happens generally, see, there is no thumb rule like this, everything will work in a similar fashion. And unless this interaction increases, because as such, if the more collaboration will happen, if the academy gets more exposure to work with the industry, and industry also gets more tuned to work with, work with the researcher or the academia institutions, I think most of the problems will be solved. There are good number of success stories also. There are some, at some times there are many lessons to learn also. But I think what is important, this has to be given, there has to be more or many such collaborations happening. I think then only this we'll find that it is progressing in a much efficient way or much quicker way.
Thank you. Pramod, any comments on your failures that you had?
I will not talk about failures as such, but the projects get stalled because of certain things. One of the things industry makes mistake that expecting academia to give a foolproof technology that you are going to implement. Academics do the technology at certain scale, they have certain efficiencies, there are certain technologies. Industry needs to handhold academia to take it to future. It's not expected that the TRL level 7 technology from an institute that will come and you can directly implement. You have to look at lab scale technology, they have proven the concept, and the industry needs to take it forward along with them, how we can take it forward. And that's what typically we are trying to do with now ISER Pune, we are working with them. I talked to Ashish now, he's NCL director, so he has much more pronounced views on this, and I like his approach that we'll not do scale-ups in NCL more than what they can chew. It's better to have TRL 3-4 level technology developed and the industry can take. Then the failure rate will be, of course, as you need to ask proper questions, due diligence of the technology that is there in the institute, but you need to handhold them to take it forward. The industry has much more at stake and they need to take those steps.
Thank you. Dr. Samir, any comments on unsuccessful projects that you had?
I could not understand about the failure because whenever we collaborate with the institute, it's up to the lab level. After completion of lab level, we go to the pilot level in our own pilot facility. After successful trial of pilot level, we go for commercialization. So there is no any chance to failure, first thing. One thing is, I want to add that, like China, we have to more empower to our universities to commercialize the new technologies to industries. And industries, request to industries has also share some of equity to the researcher and to institute as a bonus. So collaboration should be both sides and enthusiasm will be both sides to work. Thanks.
Thank you. Jan.
From industry's perspective, there are 2 points that I just wanted to set right. One is, the moment as an academician, and this time I'm on the academician side because I'm also a technology provider or a solution provider. So the moment we share about technology, what the industry starts seeing is money across the place. So I think that expectation is something that needs to be, kept under check, because the moment I am somebody like that Canadian institute, they shared with me about that it can replace lithium aluminum hydride or sodium borohydride, right? Suddenly, as somebody who's a taker of the technology, I start seeing money across the place, right? And I think that's where there is a break that needs to be put, saying, hold on, let's evaluate this properly and then take a call on really what the potential is. So I think that's one part of it. And the second part of it, that industry needs to be very clear that this is like any other R&D, there is a chance of failure at any stage of the project. So that expectation that this is going to be 100% success right at the level where just you've seen is just like a proof of concept. That kind of an expectation, there are possibilities of failure, and if the industry is prepared right from the beginning and kept their expectations under check, probably, even if the project fails, the relationship is on.
Just want to add the best thing what I have seen now after joining before also, to have consultants from academics get in your industry. Like we have today Professor Mahajani as consultant doing a lot of work with Praj, and then give him a project that he can take up in his lab to do some work. And that works very well because then you have both advantages of academics and giving you the consultancy type work as well as doing projects for you. So that works very well. That's one of the things.
Thank you. The points that we heard till now was the industry's viewpoints. I'm sure there are people there on the other side of the divide who wants to ask questions. I already see a hand raised. Can we get a mic to him, or I will give it to him? Please do introduce yourself.
My name is V.D. Sangvi from RBN Cone. I studied in chemical engineering. I read an article in Economic Times that PhD student got 2 crore award from Government of India for finding out a catalyst which can be put into any waste and pure hydrogen is generated. When I approached that lady, she says she is trying to get the world patent for the same, so she was not in a hurry to sell the technology. Can anybody throw some more light on this?
It seems that's a difficult one.
I can give only comment there. I see a lot of these claims coming up that you put something and you get. So it needs to be properly evaluated. That's what, because we see typically claims putting hydrogen getting from anywhere at the cost at what they want. But we found those claims to be not true sometimes. So it needs to be properly evaluated. That's what my thinking is. But
I have one more experience with ICT biotechnology.
Sir, can I interrupt? It seems the minister has come and I've been told to wrap it up. Probably we can take it offline. It's my pleasure to have you all here. It was wonderful hearing you. And please join me in applauding my fellow panelists. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the panel and the moderator, Mr. Viju Pillai, for a very insightful discussion. Thank you. We are moving towards the felicitation function in honor of Professor G.D. Yadav. We're just waiting for all the guests to arrive. I'd like to take